Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today I had an amazing day of battling. Today I'm taking you to the Great League, where I built a Shadow Malamar team that helped me climb 140 ELO to get back into the 2700s. On day 1 of this rotation, I got up to 2746, then tried to hit Expert with a Great League King Gambit. Unfortunately, that predictably went very poorly, but the Shadow Malamar, Dunsparce, and Gastrodon team that I built helped me get all of my ELO back. One important note before we start: if you're sensitive to bright lights, the Psywave animation is still brighter than normal, so I'd be careful with watching this video. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And in game number 1, we've got the Battle of Shadows, Shadow Malamar into Shadow Talonflame. This is one of the matchups why I chose to run the Shadow Malamar, as Shadow Malamar does 4 damage per Psywave instead of the regular's 3. That means that Shadow Malamar does actually have a lot more win cons against Shadow Talonflame. Shadow Talonflame, if it really wants to, can force the 2 shield, but I'm pretty comfortable getting their final shield or getting switch advantage. They're going to shield. I try and go for a rollout snipe with Dunsparce, but it's actually a simultaneous switch out. Their Furret into my Dunsparce. I farm up to the back-to-back drill runs. And drill run, while it's never going to be doing a ton of damage to Furret, the goal of Dunsparce is to try and be a neutral presence. Dunsparce does a good job at shutting down some of the dark flyers that are awkward for the Malamar, but as well, if you have rock and ground coverage, at least in most matchups, you're at least going to be able to hit for neutral, which is very, very valuable. Here, I'm barely able to hang on and make it to a drill run, and now that puts it in perfect 1-slap down range for my Gastrodon. In comes Shadow Talonflame. Shadow Talonflame does not have the back-to-back, which means this is a safe shield for me. I throw the Body Slam as soon as I get it, so that Incinerate that goes through, that damage does not register. In the back, they have a Shadow Annihilate, and this game is over. As Annihilate, they just can't make it to a potential close combat. So at worst, it's just going to be a Rage Fist. Rage Fist does not KO, but this Water Pulse probably is going to knock out. Water Pulse KOs Annihilate, and we're able to take the game 1 win. We see a bad lead in game number 2, Shadow Malamar into Florges. Even if they're on the moveset that's gaining in popularity, which is Chilling Water plus Trailblaze, and they don't have Moonblast, this is still not a good matchup. But here's where Shadow Malamar's damage is awesome. I'm able to apply big damage with Superpower and then bail out of the matchup and send in Dunsparce. They're going to debuff me with a Chilling Water, rebank a ton of energy, and out comes Corviknight. I'm debuffed. They banked energy, and now they sent in a very bulky Pokemon in Corviknight, so all looks lost. However, switch clocks are misaligned, and that's something that I can take advantage of. They go for the payback, switch clock is up, and in comes Malamar. Malamar, more than happy to be hit with an air cutter. Had they tried to build up to the payback, then I could have thrown a move. I keep farming, but there's going to be the switch into the Florges. Florges will apply the debuff with Chilling Water. I want to get as much energy as I can with the Malamar, trusting that even at -1, a foul play will KO the low health Florges. So Florges will get knocked out. I do have quite a lot of energy available on the Malamar, almost have another charge attack loaded. In the back is going to be Charge Bug. I instantly switch into the Dunsparce. Rock Slide will be shielded, but I don't get my second move. The Volt Switch KOs before I get there. And now in comes Gastrodon. Gastrodon farming up a ton of energy. Opponent will be able to hit for some solid damage with X-Scissor. X-Scissor is going to land. I'm going for the Water Pulse, but I don't think this is going to be enough to knock out. It's going to be very close. Water Pulse lands. Charge Bug survives. X-Scissor will come very close to knocking me out, so I will put up the shield. In comes Corviknight. Corviknight will take a lot of damage from the Water Pulse. Water Pulse does get the shield. Quick switch into the Malamar, and there is the Superpower. Superpower into the Corviknight, picks up the knockout. All that's left is the 1 HP Charge-a-Bug. And despite never having switch advantage throughout this entire game, we're able to dance our way out of that bad matchup and take the win. We move to the next match, leading Shadow Malamar into Empoleon. This entire team can hit Empoleon for super effective damage. I don't really want to shield the Malamar on the lead, as the zeros is the shielding scenario that Malamar can win. So I just want to grab a shield advantage, and then I can look to send in Dunsparce. Dunsparce is usually a massive core breaker for every Empoleon team, as it's very difficult to build an Empoleon team that isn't really soft to the Dunsparce. So I'm going to use my shields here and try and set my Dunsparce up for success. My opponent will throw one Metal Sound of the move, barely able to outpace the Dunsparce. I have to watch for a potential catch, and there it is. In comes Togekiss. Togekiss will be able to get an Aura Sphere before I can get this second Rock Slide, and I figure that whatever they have in back is probably good into the Gastrodon. So I'm just going to fully sacrifice this Gastrodon. Gastrodon, I think its best use is as a damage sponge. I do not want to give any kind of farm to whatever they have in the back, so I'm just going to commit to the farm down and let myself get farmed. This way, I'll have the energy advantage on the Dunsparce. Switch Clock's up for my opponent, and they are not going to let me get that farm down as they aggressively pivot in Dusclops as their closer. Dusclops not really able to generate any kind of fast move pressure, but the Ice Punches will add up. The biggest problem for me is I'm 8 turns off of a move on the Shadow Malamar, and they're 8 turns off of a move on Empoleon, but Empoleon will win charge attack priority. So, in a race to a move, I have no way to outpace them. Ice Punch number 2 is going to connect, and now I click Drill Run. But I'm not going to click all the bubbles. I undercharge to give myself the 0-turn switch. They're forced into the 1 turn. We outpace by 1 turn as a result. Superpower KOs the Empoleon. We get to Psy-Wave down a Togekiss followed by a Dusclops, and we're able to solve an impossible endgame. Hopping into the next match, picking up a very bad lead, Shadow Malamar into Sableye. This matchup is not a very common one, but it's a very negative one for the Shadow Malamar. Shadow Malamar will get to land the foul play. That's some pretty nice damage onto the Sableye. If you have a very high attack Malamar, you can potentially win charge attack priority, but I run a bulk weight Malamar, which means, unfortunately, I'm going to be losing that charge attack priority tie every single time. I decided to try and make a play for switch advantage, so even though I lose CMP, I shield and I'm able to take the knockout. In comes Diggersby. I try and get to the move, but I just can't get there, and unfortunately this has probably sealed my fate, as I am down energy and down a shield to a Diggersby. But the thing is, even if I didn't have switch advantage, I still would have been losing because Dunsparce can't do anything into a Diggersby. Scorching Sands is going to land. I throw, overfarming quite a bit to watch for the catch, and the catch will happen onto the Corviknight. Corviknight gets hit with the Water Pulse. I bank the Water Pulse for later, sending in the Dunsparce, but unfortunately, this is just going to be a loss. Corviknight going to fire off the Air Cutter, instantly fishing for that boost. They do not get it, and now I will fire off this Rock Slide. Rock Slide into the Corviknight is going to get Corviknight into the red HP, but the tricky thing is I can't ever really farm down. Payback lands, switch timers up, in comes Diggersby, and Diggersby will immediately be met with the Drill Run. Drill Run is going to be shielded. I have to try for the catch. I throw 2, wait the turn, and switch into the Gastrodon. I need this to be a Fire Punch, but my opponent read me like a book, throwing the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands barely does not knock out, so I get the Water Pulse, but my opponent still has the shield to hide behind, and now they will get to outpace and take the win. If I see Sableye lead again in the future, I think I'll try safe switching out next time. Bad lead in the next match, Malamar into Shadow Scizor. I save switch into Gastrodon, and the Mud Slaps do so much damage here. My opponent throws after 6, so this can only be a Night Slash, and now that they've gotten the Gastrodon low, they send out a Azumarill. Switching a Water type into a loaded Gastrodon is a really smart play for my opponent, because they know with Gastrodon now on Water Pulse, Gastrodon's going to struggle to output meaningful damage. So Gastrodon will go for Body Slam after Body Slam, doing what it can in this matchup. Switch timers up, and in comes Dunsparce. I want to try and save that Gastrodon, take advantage of the desync in the switch timers, and now my opponent reveals their final Pokemon in the back to be Furret. Furret will take some solid damage from Drill Runs, so Drill Run number 1 is going to connect, and I throw 1, looking for the move, but my opponent will be able to outpace as they connect with a Swift. Swift puts Dunsparce into the red health, but I will still get to the Drill Run. Drill Run will be getting the Furret at a pretty similar health range. Furret looks for the farm down, but Dunsparce is too bulky. Dunsparce makes it to another Drill Run. Furret is just going to let itself get KO'd. In comes Azumarill. I'm going to answer Azumarill with the Malamar. I do still have some fast move pressure available for me on the Gastrodon. I shield up the Ice Beam, in comes Scizor, but look at Scizor's health. Scizor, these Psy-Waves are suddenly very threatening. They've taken a lot of damage throughout the course of this game. I'm not quite going to be able to get a farm down, but I can look for a game-winning catch. Foul play will be shielded. I switch into the Gastrodon and catch the Night Slash. And now it's going to be all up to Shadow Malamar. Shadow Malamar gets that Psywave down. In comes Azumarill, and I will be going for the foul play. If they shield, they're getting hit with a superpower. They call that it's just a foul play. They try for the bubble down, but they do not get there. Shadow Malamar, the absolute GOAT, takes down Azumarill and clutches us a win that we probably should not have gotten. We move to the next match, leading Shadow Malamar into Shadow Marowak. Pretty nice lead for the Shadow Malamar. Malamar is able to output a ton of pressure onto the Marowak, and I'm more than happy to shield up because Shadow Malamar should win the 2 shield. Opponent safe switches into Fortress. I'm pretty close to a move, so I go for the superpower. If I wasn't close to the move, then I would have just immediately sent in the Dunsparce, but I figured getting some chip on it would be nice, as this could set up a drill run into an aggressive rollout farm down. Anytime you see Marowak lead with a Fortress safe switch, it's going to be Bastiodon in the back. And one thing I like about this team is if you see Bastiodon anywhere, it's basically a free win because the entire team absolutely crushes Bastiodon. In comes Marowak. Marowak doesn't have a strong incentive to shield a debuffed drill run, but now the switch clocks up and my trump card is revealed. In comes Gastrodon. Gastrodon can just fully farm down this Marowak. The Bastiodon is helpless in the back, and they will resign the match. We move to the next match, picking up what's actually a bad lead, Shadow Malamar into Unova Stunfisk. This is one matchup where the regular Malamar is actually better, because the regular Malamar is guaranteed to win all evens. So I like going for a superpower, and then a safe switch into the Dunsparce. My opponent responds with a Togekiss, and that is not a real response to a Dunsparce, as I should be able to get 2 shields from my opponent or switch advantage. So I'm at the back-to-back rock slides, they no shield, rollout knocks out, and just like that, I am now in possession of switch advantage. That's really, really good for me. My opponent is going to bring out Furret as their final Pokemon. And with switch advantage, this game is very straightforward. I should be able to, more or less, just 2 shield everything with the Gastrodon and take the win. So I send in Shadow Malamar, more than happy to no shield because all I need at this moment is the Psywave damage. I will go for the foul play because if I can get the shields down, I may as well do so. But I'm feeling very, very confident. My opponent will get that full farm down, but with the 2 shields for Gastrodon to hide behind, there's just no ability for my opponent to damage this Pokemon. I shield up the Swift Bait, they do get to the Trailblaze, but I'm always going to be double shielding because I know what they have in the back. It's the Stunfisk from earlier. In comes the Stunfisk, and this poor Stunfisk. It can throw Mud Bomb after Mud Bomb after Mud Bomb, but Gastrodon simply does not care. I don't even need to go for Water Pulses. I can just go for the Body Slams, because by the time I get to another Body Slam, I'll have done enough Mud Slap damage that the Slam will knock out. So they get to go for Mud Bomb number 2, but they just cannot get to the 3rd Mud Bomb that would seal the game for them. I get to fire off my Body Slam, knocking out the Stunfisk, and securing another win. Hopping into the next match, leading Shadow Malamar into Steelix. Now this is a matchup that's pretty solid for the Malamar, but obviously I would much prefer that this was aligned onto the Gastrodon. Malamar, because they're non-shadow, I don't really want to go for a superpower first, but rather I want to foul play so I can stay in the matchup. Now, I threaten to knock out with a superpower that I couldn't before, so the foul play bait is going to be successful. They have farmed up so much energy on this Steelix, I decide to respect it, I get baited with the Psychic Fangs. My opponent ends up safe switching into Wigglytuff, and to me, I was expecting them to stay in after they got that shield call right, because by baiting me with the Psychic Fangs, then they could have threatened to crunch. But the switch out, I guess, would make sense if they were on Earthquake, as I believe if they're on Earthquake, even with a Psychic Fangs bait, I'm still able to outpace there. I sent in the Dunsparce, because I'm a little worried that there could be an Annihilate in the back. I have seen that team a few times. My opponent is going to pivot into Gastrodon, that's not an Annihilate, but importantly, I'm able to save a drill run for later, reset the attack drop, and now it's Gastrodon versus Gastrodon. So I do have a move banked on the Malamar, and I have a move banked on the Dunsparce. My Gastrodon will go for the Water Pulse. Water Pulse connects, but it's not enough damage. I couldn't go for the CMP tie into their Gastrodon because I'm the rank 1, so I would be losing that. They send in the Steelix. Steelix will be able to take the knockout with the Psychic Fangs. I have a ton of loaded energy. In comes Malamar. Malamar going for the foul play. If they shield, I can snipe them with the drill run. They're going to let it go. In comes Wigglytuff. That gets Psywave down. In comes the Steelix. That gets Psywave down as well. Shadow Malamar putting on a show. And we're able to take the win. Hopping into the final match, one final Shadow Scizor lead. I safe switch into the Gastrodon, and my opponent is going to respond with Azumarill. This is a pretty common response to the Gastrodon safe switch, as the Azumarill, as I mentioned before, does a really good job of punishing the fact that Gastrodon is no longer on Earth Power. However, I think Water Pulse is a really nice change for Gastrodon, as it allows Gastrodon to be way more flexible than it was before. With Water Pulse allowing it to have play into stuff like Galarian Moltres, suddenly safe switching Gastrodon doesn't feel nearly as punishing, considering that every grass type except for Credilli has basically disappeared, and Credilli is on acid, so they can't really do any fast move pressure. My opponent will get to take the knockout with the Ice Beam. In comes Malamar. They're going to give up switch because they do not want to give Malamar farm. They know that a Shadow Malamar with an energy advantage is one of the most deadly Pokemon in the entire game. Trailblaze lands, that's big damage onto the Dunsparce, but Dunsparce is on this team to be bulky. It's here to tank hits, and even though they boosted their bullet punches, they cannot farm down the Dunsparce. I get to a second drill run, and I'm up 2 shields to 0. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to give those shields back in a split second, because Malamar is not going to be able to get to my move before they're able to make it to their next Night Slash. But I am just full committing here. I trust in the Malamar. Malamar looking for the full farm down. They switch into a Azumarill. That gets farmed down as well. Is it Credilli in the back? It's usually Credilli. It's not, but it's still going to be a win. Superpower will inflict devastating damage. I can follow it up with the foul play, and that Scizor is just simply too low. It's not surviving the Psy Wave. Shadow Malamar farms down yet another Scizor, and that is a good game. All in all, I had an incredible amount of fun with this team today. Across the sets that I played, I think I went 18-7 or 17-8. I would have to look back at my battle log, but overall, an incredibly positive day. I think most every season, I'm going to be trying to make Shadow Malamar work, because if you're able to find a team that can well support Malamar against its bad matchups, Shadow Malamar to me is the definition of neutral play. It has incredible coverage, it has great fast move pressure, it has incredible consistency as well, and even in its bad matchups, with a small energy advantage, it has the ability to flip them. So I think this team does a pretty decent job of covering the weaknesses of Malamar. The big weakness to this team is it is ABA weak to the Dark Flyers. Part of why I felt okay team building like that was the only Dark Flyers I was seeing on the lead was Murkrow. That's still going to be a low percentage game for this team, but Malamar does win the zeros against Murkrow, and the few Moltres that I saw were usually in the back. So if I'm seeing Moltres in the back, then I can potentially put the Dunsparce on them. And the few Murkrow that I'll see, I'll play out zeros, try and farm down with the Dunsparce. And then, once Murkrow is out of the way, then hopefully Gastrodon will be able to sweep out the endgame. So this team felt amazing to use. It got me up to 27-14 ELO at the time of recording, which is right around top 100 in the world. So massive, massive climbs with it today, from just off of the leaderboard to top 100. So the team worked incredibly well. One thing that I really liked about it is I felt like I wasn't even necessarily winning a tremendous amount of leads. There was a lot of Scizors, which is a losing lead, some Florges, some uncomfortable Pokemon, but with a really strong supporting cast to support Malamar, it really let Malamar flip those bad lead matchups and be able to take a lot of knockouts in the end game. There were several games where Malamar was taking all 3 KOs because of the really good job that Gastrodon and Dunsparce did supporting it and allowing it to reposition and get those small energy advantages. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.